Yes, good morning, Andre. Good morning to listeners. Good morning to, should I say, viewers. Since we're on a live stream on Facebook as well, I just heard you provide the link to YouTube. I think that's a good new development. We are now on YouTube, so those of you who prefer to follow us on YouTube, you have that option right now. So a very good morning to you and a special welcome to Meet the Opposition. I'm hoping today that we're going to have a very interesting program, and today you'll get enough time to call in and to contribute and make your input to the program as well. But for today, Andre, I want to start by asking the question, what is a politician? And that is a pertinent question now because, you know, we are in the season. And when I talk about the season, Andre, you're probably thinking of Christmas. But that's not what I'm talking about. That's the season to be jolly. But when I talk about the political season, that's a season to be silly. You know, and so you know, find a lot happening during that time. That is a time when people go after each other, people become divisive, people, you know, lawsuits and everything. Andre, I see now you have to put a disclaimer.
Correct.
You know, so that if I say anything, you know, untoward, that you disassociate yourself with it. But you need not worry, I'm not about to. And so, at the end of the day, we are at the juncture now where we are about to make our selection.
I thought you were going to explain what a politician is.
Yes, I will.
Oh, okay.
So we are at the juncture where we are about to make our selection. When I'm talking about selecting our representatives. Now, a politician really is someone who is engaged professionally in politics and who is a candidate and seeking to gain election.
And what is your view, or what is your take on what politics is all about?
But what politics really is entirely different. I do not know that there is any specific qualification in terms of academic qualification that makes a person an ideal politician. But there are certain qualities that you look for in a politician, given the fact that a politician is expected to provide representation, and in providing proper representation.
I think you misunderstood the question. I'm asking, what is politics?
Well, politics really is the business of running the affairs of the people in a country, and of course that is done by the elected politician in most countries. In some countries, where there is a one-party state or dictatorship, you know, it is controlled by one group of people. But it is really and truly the management of the affairs of a country and a people, making laws, rules, governing, conducting business on behalf of the country, setting policies and so on, that would affect the lives of the people in that country.
Explained, very well explained.
Yes.
And when you really think about it, when you think of that description, it's a noble profession.
It is, and that's why we always say here, Andre, we always say that there's nothing really wrong with politics if you think of politics in its true sense.
In fact, we need the politicians. That's
right. And so there are individuals who have bad characters, and if you take an individual with the wrong type of character to serve in any walk of life, whether it be politics, whether it be in the media, whether it be in law or anything, they will bring that character to bear, and that is what will corrupt the profession and make it look bad. But it is not really bad. Essentially, it is people who do bad things that makes it look ugly, but it is not.
In fact, there's corruption in every sphere.
Every sphere.
Every. I mean, no matter how, as long as people can do something and they can get away with it.
That's right.
Right. They will, most people.
And so, talking about getting away with it, I mean, we have to ask ourselves, what do we want from our politicians, and who do we select as our politicians? I'm deliberately raising that issue, Andre, because in St Lucia, I don't think it's a secret to anyone that when the time comes to make that selection, many of us will take the time to analyze the existing situation in the country, to look at the plans that the politicians present to us, to ask ourselves whether the individual has what it takes to provide the representation and so on, and let them answer questions as to how they are going to implement the things that they promise. But there are some of us as well who simply just blindly vote for an individual based on the basis of party. So I have been UWP all my life. I'm voting UWP. I've actually heard people say, my party can send a broomstick, I will vote for that person. And so...
Or this is the party my family has always voted for.
And so on.
Yes.
Now, I think that's a wrong approach, because even if I was born into that party, and that party is doing wrong, that party is affecting my life, that party is destroying my country, You cannot tell me you're going to keep your allegiance and loyalty to that party, knowing that that party is not going in the right direction. So you really vote for betterment, for the upliftment of your country, for better quality of life for the people, and for the proper what I call proper representation. So, it's not a fait accompli that beforehand, you have already made up your mind, Andre, and I can preach Paul. Doesn't matter what. Sorry about the Andre Paul, but
it's all right. It's all right.
No pun intended. But Andre, it does not matter what plans I present, what ideas I have, and how capable I am. You have already made up your mind. You don't want to hear what I have to say. I don't think that's the way it should be. I believe that we should analyze, weigh the pros and cons, contrast what this one is saying as opposed to what that one is saying, and then you make an informed, wise decision. Because at the end of the day, Andre, 5 years is a pretty long time. And if you choose the wrong person, that person presides over the business of your country, your constituency, your community for the next 5 years. And that in itself can have disastrous consequences for you. I mean, I don't want to delve too much into American politics, but it concerns us, it affects us. I mean, here you have President Trump, and some of his policies you can see already is not just affecting Americans, it's affecting the whole world. And so you ask yourself, boy, did people pay enough attention to what he was saying? Although sometimes, Andre, I can, be clandestine and keep what I have in mind to myself, say what you want to hear, and when the time comes, do what I have in mind. But I mean, that is a good example. I'm using it because here's a case where it's just a few months since he has assumed the presidency, and we are seeing some disastrous consequences already. Look at the tariff, the trade tariff war that is beginning, and it's
also,
affecting. It's affecting the whole world. It's going to affect us.
And also the number of people were being fired left, right, and center.
Right and center.
I bet you when he was campaigning, he didn't say that.
He didn't say that. And Andre, again, for us, and you forgive me if I focus more on where we are affected. I mean, we have a lot of our people in the United States, some of them probably not properly documented, and so on. They are on this immigration hunt where they're going to be deporting people and so on. And you can never tell how far it may go. It may even extend to people who are properly documented. And so it is a little scary, it is a little frightening, and there are certain things we don't have much control over, but I'm sure the American people now are reconsidering the decision that they made, but that is a decision they will have to live with for the next 4 years. And so that is why I'm saying all of this to tell us that we are now at the juncture. Almost.
Do you think that maybe the vast majority sort of support what he's doing?
Well, there are some who do, but I don't think the vast majority do. I don't think a lot of the people who voted for him expected that kind of action on his part, especially just imagine, Andre, what has Canada done to her? That's the strongest ally, their neighbor, bordering with them. Canada is known, apart from Switzerland and so on, countries like Canada, not known to be warlike, not known to be, involved in invading any country, in getting involved in other people's affairs and so on. And the man from early in the day said, well, he would annex Canada to the United States and make it a 51st state. You know what I'm saying? That's a sovereign country, an independent country of proud people, and so on. You make that statement, and, right away, the war of words began, and the repercussions have begun because Canada is threatening to pull out their electricity because they supply a significant part of America with power. And now that he has talked about the tariffs, if Canada will retaliate and do the same, we have China talking about retaliatory measures. And these are the world powers. And Andre, we don't produce very much here. We import almost everything. So, we are complaining about the high prices of goods in this country. Can you imagine when all of that come into effect, how much worse it's going to be? You're going to be looking at a recession, straight down the barrel of a recession, and the hardship is going to hit us, and so on. So I'm thinking, Andre, I'm saying so because I'm thinking we should start addressing our minds to those realities that we do not have any control over. What we can control is how we react to it. We should already begin discussing how we are going to react to it. because food is going to become an issue, Andre. Not just the cost, but the availability of food is going to become an issue. Shouldn't we, as a people, start the discussion on what are we going to do because we have been talking about self-sufficiency. We've been talking about providing our own food, growing what we eat and all of that. Just talk. Maybe it's time, Andre, that you and I even consider the little 2x4 backyard that we have, what we can begin to plant. Because it will be an issue for us in terms of availability of food, and when it is available, the cost of it. But if we can produce it ourselves, we can ameliorate that effect on us, and that's just one area, that's food. We import medical supplies, we import everything, well, I say everything, almost everything that we need, we import it. And so, Andre, I'm saying so to say that when you elect politicians, you elect them to become leaders of the country, and a leader is the one who provides guidance, who leads the way, who is supposed to, begin to address things, and they must have some vision, they must have some foresight. I am not comfortable, I am not happy with what I'm hearing from our government. Something is unfolding, and you're saying to me you have not received any official, thing. Andre, you have to be proactive. You have to be proactive. Say, for example, the disclaimer that you play, Andre, you're not going to wait till somebody sues you to say you're going to, you anticipate that, look, this is the season that is heating up, and some people might get carried away and say things they're not supposed to say. So let you just, protect your radio station and so on. So that is what people who are visionary, people who have foresight, that is what people do. You have to be proactive. Yes, sometimes you have no choice but to be reactive, but as much as you can, you have to be proactive. We have heard statements from many governments, but our government, when asked, what are we doing? Because, Andre, you're the one I'm going to turn to. You're the leader. What are we doing, Andre? That's what people do. They turn to the leader, what are we doing? And you're going to say to us that, well, we have not gotten anything official and so on. So you're going to tell me. You're going to wait until we get something official, which may be very late in the day, and when we can probably preempt some of the consequences now, and so on. So these are the little things I'm highlighting to say to people, voting for a leader, voting for a politician is not just an exercise. I mean, I know it's like a carnival during the campaign, Andre. We all go to rallies with our flags, sing songs, jump up, chant slogans and so on. But that is not what it is all about. It is about our future, it is about our lives. And I am concerned about my quality of life. And if we don't be very careful, our quality of life can be seriously jeopardized, even without us doing anything to cause it. So what is it we can do to mitigate against it? And that is where government comes in. And that doesn't mean you and I don't have a responsibility to, Andre, because I'm thinking of, what I can grow in my backyard, what I can grow in my farm and things like that. Whereas you will be, flippant about it before. Why would I waste my time grow peas at home? I can just go to the supermarket and get some lentil peas for $3, that kind of thing, no big deal. But when a packet of lentils become $10 and $20, that's a different story. And so I am saying so to say to people, this is a serious responsibility. That vote that you have has serious repercussions and consequences for you and the rest of the country, and that you have to use it wisely. Now, both parties will be affected by what I'm about to say, Andre. Do not cast your vote on the basis of blind loyalty to any party. Now, I understand you may become loyal to a party because of their policies, because of their track record and so on. I understand that. But do not cast your vote for a party or a candidate based on blind loyalty. Ask the pertinent question, make the right assessments, and ensure that you are doing the right thing. So, that is why, Andre, it is important to ask yourself, who is the politician I'm voting for? Because the politicians make the party, remember that. The party you're talking about, that's why I'm UWP, I'm SLP. The party you're talking about, the politicians are the one who make the party. Because SLP or UWP, as the words are, do nothing. It is the people who are in that party who do the good or bad things. And so that is why I'm happy that the UWP is putting out some of their ideas, their plans, their proposals, stating their policies as to what they're going to do as far as health is concerned, what they're going to do as social programs, what they're going to do in sports, what they're going to do for the elderly, what they're going to do, across the board in education and all of that. I am happy to hear that. I want to know that you have a plan. And I think that is one of the mistakes that was made in the last general election. We voted for a government without a plan. As a result, our health system crashed. As a result, our security, meaning law and order, declined. As a consequence of that, we saw higher prices, higher cost of living than should be existing. As a result of that, we find ourselves paying a lot more in taxes, in gas prices, for bread and for everything. As a result of that, we saw subsidies go down because we elected a government that did not have a plan. When you consider the world that we're living in today, I want my listeners to understand, you need to elect a government that can hit the ground running. There's no time to now fiddle around and try to guess or try to figure out what it is you should do or what it is you will do. Okay, you cannot be reactive. You have to be proactive, because by the time you wait to react, the horse has bolted and it can be too late. And that is why I say many of our institutions, many of our systems in this country has seen a decline simply because we elected a government without a plan. Are we going to make that same mistake? Because you see, when you have a government in office, you select a group of politicians. These are people who are supposed to put policies in place, provide guidance and leadership to a country. But when you have no answers, you make rash decisions, such as when you tell me a government will take away one of the primary revenue sources of a country, your ports, Andre. Okay? Many governments like ours use taxes as a main source of revenue. But another source of revenue for government, a main source of revenue for any government in any country, is the duties that you pay on imports. Andre, that is almost a guaranteed, if there is any such thing, a guaranteed source of revenue for a country. You take that wholesale and put it in the hands of foreigners for the next 30 years, possibly 40 years. Andre, that is tantamount to criminal. I mean, how could you do something like that? And the guys are making a killing already without having done anything. That money should be coming to SLASPA. And when I say SLASPA, Andre, it is ours. SLASPA is a quasi-government institution that, is an arm of government. So the money SLASPA makes is our money. But the money GPH makes is not our money. Today, we're looking at charging passengers on a cruise ship $12 a head. And GPH is going to get $10 out of that. The sustainable solid waste, is going to be getting about $1.50, and then the rest comes to government. I mean, how can you justify such decisions? How can that does not make sense? We need a government, who understand how business works, how business is done, and that when they bargain and negotiate on your behalf, that if anything, Andre, it is a fair deal, but if not, we get the lion's share of it. We get the higher benefit for it. And these are the things I'm concerned about. I mean, I'm in the campaign. I love politics, and I love election campaign and all of that. But it goes beyond that. It is more than that. So, beside all the rhetoric and the hype, all the slogans and the songs and all of that, we have to start thinking more deeply as to what is happening to our country, whether we have a future, and what is that future, and is in whose hands that future is going to be. Okay? Now,
just a quick question.
Yes.
What's happening with the ports there? Is that separate and apart from what's happening at customs?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So in terms of us, because you say we're losing a lot of money,
Yeah.
what is it that we're actually losing?
Okay.
And what is it under this current arrangement
Right.
that we are gaining?
Okay. You heard the Minister of Tourism, when Dominic was there, he did it. Now Dr. Hiller is there, he's doing it, boasting about how many cruise passengers come into St. Lucia. And they go and negotiate to get more cruise passengers, more cruise ships to come. When they come, we don't invite cruise passengers to come here just for us to see them, Andre. When they come, first and foremost, upon entry, they pay a fee. All right? And so it is built into whatever. I know passage is an outdated word now. in the days when I grew up, you pay a passage to travel. Your fees, right? So, included in that fee that they pay for their cruise is built in that, like a tax, so to speak. $12 or $12.50 goes to us. So the cruise ship will pay that amount per head to us.
So as you said there, it's sort of guaranteed, right?
A guarantee. And that is money that's supposed to come to us. The government...
So we're talking about hundreds of thousands of cruise visitors.
That's right.
Yeah?
That's right. So the government now has decided when the cruise ship comes, they come with waste. They have to dump their waste. They have to do all of the things. So solid waste gets $150. I have no issue, no quarrel with that. Okay? SLASPA gets the balance, which means government gets the balance. Then government will decide to put aside to upgrade, to maintain and everything. And the rest of it to invest as we see fit, as whatever government is in office see fit for the benefit of the people of the country. But now when GPH gets the lion's share, $10 out of that $12 or $12.50, I mean, what is that? That's not I mean, in school, in maths, the little I remember in maths, they talk about balance equations. For sure, that they're balancing, you know. Like the young people say now, that math is not mathing, you know. And so, when you make those kinds of lopsided decisions on behalf of the people, I question that. Because, Andre, you and I understand, everyone understand that that does not make sense. Why is it they don't? You have to ask yourself whether there is some other consideration that is at play. You know, now.
So you said all we're getting from that tax, or that tariff, is how much?
Well, government is getting $1, and solid waste is getting
$1.50.
Yes, and $10 goes to GPH. Now, the more we build our tourist industry.
So hold on, you need to educate us. What was the government thinking when they took a decision like that? They must. I mean, we have to assume that our country is being led by intelligent people.
I would assume so.
Right.
But
so
it doesn't seem so.
Why would they make a decision like that?
Okay. The argument so far is that we need to upgrade our ports, and so GPH will take on the responsibility of upgrading our port. Now, GPH has come, go to the bank, because they have a lease on our port for 30 years with an option to renew that lease for another 10 years. When you present a bank that asset, because the lease puts them in a position to use, to leverage the port as security, you know, for the loan. So when you come and say, I have that port for the next 30 years, during that time, I say to the bank, you know, give me let's say 25-year loan. The port is mine for the next 30 years, possibly 40 years. If anything goes wrong, the bank knows they have a port that will make money, you understand. So it's not, I mean, every investment is a risk, but it's not too much of a risk.
So you're saying, the party is saying
GPH will upgrade the port for us.
So is it that the government was thinking, well, we don't put ourselves into more debt. So instead of going into more debt by taking a loan, we will allow GPH to do it. But you're saying that it was a sort of we could take a calculated risk.
Exactly.
Because you most likely, as you said there, if the government reneges on the repayments, the port is there.
Exactly.
Okay, I get your point.
And what I'm saying to you is, it is not like GPH is in a position to raise the funds, and we cannot. It is our port they're using to leverage for the funds. Why can't SLASPA do the same? What is it that GPH will be doing that SLASPA has not been doing? These are the questions. So you're saying to me, now this is the party that talk about, the EWP don't believe in locals, there's foreigners, and they don't believe in St. Lucians, don't invest in St. Lucians. You saying to me SLASPA, which has a board and a staff that are St. Lucians, are not capable of doing what GPH is going to be doing. Now, even if it means, Andre, I have to bring you from overseas as a contractor to do certain aspects of the port and thing, that's a different thing. But it remains with us. We oversee the development and we reap the benefits of that development. You don't put our ports in the hands of foreigners for 40 years and so on. Now, Andre, let me just tell you the little things, quite apart from that blunder, that lopsided deal that goes against the people of St. Lucia and the country of St. Lucia. Let me just tell you other little things that we have no control over when we give our assets away to foreigners like they just did. Andre, I am into business now. I may be thinking of expanding my business. What do I do? Where do I go? Let me look for somewhere where you'll make money. But you know, if I open a little shop, a boutique on the port, Andre and them fellas, they'll buy jewelry and whatever it is I want to go into. But the tourists, usually when people come on a holiday, they have spending money. That is a market, a niche I can go into. So let me get a shop on the port and so on. You know, they decide who gets, if you get. They can just decide all the boutiques and all of that. They can be running it. They will decide if you're now Andre, in your transportation business, you want to come with your taxi and so on. They will be deciding if you can operate there and under what terms and conditions you can operate there.
So under the current terms and conditions, that's not included. In other words, we didn't protect our people by saying, well, you can't do this and you can't do that?
No. The port is theirs, Andre. And there were no clauses to protect anybody.
So like places like La Place Carénage and those places there, where you have a number of boutiques and you have a number...
Let me just tell you something. When the government is running it through SLASPA, you know what you're going to do, Andre? I don't know where you're voting, but if it's Ernest Hiller, who is the Minister of Tourism, you can start making noise. You call the show and say you're threatening you're not going to vote for them if this and that. You call your other taxi friends, you'll protest and so on. Politicians listen to numbers. Politicians, boy, that's unpopular. They will yield. Even if they think otherwise, they will yield. You have some control, you have some power as a St. Lucian. The businessman, I run my business, Andre. You're going to tell me, when I say my cake is $1.25, you're going to tell me it should be $1.00. I'll tell you, Andre, go to hell. If you don't have $1.25, don't come here. You know, especially when I know I can get tourists to buy it. You know, now you can preach Paul, you can hit the roof, you can say what you want. Those people's decisions are predicated on business. It is the bottom line that matters to them. So if they think they can make an additional $20 million for the year by putting big buses there to just take the tourists off the boat and go and do what they have to do, you don't have a license to operate there. They simply get rid of you and they do it themselves. What protection, what control do we have? These are the things we have to ask ourselves. So you might say that has nothing to do with you because taxi you're running. Oh, really? You might say it has nothing to do. I might say it has nothing to do with me. It's shop I operate in. Big mistake. You know. And these are the things that we have to be mindful of. Our government has abdicated on its responsibility to guide, to put policies in place and to take care of us, to ensure that we have a better quality of life, and they have put that control in the hands of foreigners. Just like our CIP program. You see? People have to understand that. Just like they have done with our CIP program. Our CIP program, Andre, forget all the fancy terms and everything. I'm not in that. The jargon and all, I'm not in that, about files, about this and that. At the end of the day, what we are doing, they're giving you, a foreigner, a passport for a certain amount of money. We are selling passports. It doesn't sound good. They don't want to say it. That is what it is. We are selling passports. So you going to, depending on the program you're joining into, or if it is just, you know, an administrative thing where you just give $100,000 and you get a passport to become a citizen of St. Lucia. There are others who are into business, into investment. So they will tell you, I'm into the hotel business. I can build a hotel in St. Lucia that will employ 1,000 people, that will, you know, do so much and so on. You now, as a government, you're desperate for employment. You figure, big deal. Andre has a background into that business. He has built hotel before and so on. So what they do in Andre, you're not coming with money to build a hotel, you know. and I'm not entirely condemning it, I'm not comfortable with it, but I'm not entirely condemning it, because sometimes your circumstances dictate your decisions. But we are giving those people our passports to go out there and sell. And from the sale of our passport, Andre, the proceeds they use to build the hotel. But the hotel is theirs. So when I was in cabinet, I remember Galaxy, the same Galaxy that is here now, came and made an offer. The government negotiated with them. But what was negotiated was that we will give you 750 passports that will amount to so many millions of US dollars. And out of all those millions of dollars that you have made, you'll use that towards building the hotel. But that wasn't not enough to build the hotel, Andre. I think that would be maybe about 60% of the hotel. You put in the 40%. So, at the end of the day, Andre, you, the foreigner who's coming to do that business, have some skin in the game. Otherwise, if we give you
so 100... that was the arrangement under your UWP administration?
Yes.
Okay.
The Alan Chastanet administration, they say they're so pro-foreigner and all of that. Okay, I want you to listen to me, follow me, and I'll show you what the people that are anti-foreigners and not pro-foreigners, what they have done. So, at the end of the day, that was the deal. But by the time, like anything else, these things take time. By the time everything was on stream, 750 passports approved and so on, there's a change of government. The St Lucia Labour Party government, who was accusing the UWP of FFF for French foreigners and what, I don't know, foreigners
family.
And family, yes. They came in and they decided that they would sweeten that deal even more. And I'm saying to myself, boy, I'm grumbling. Not that we have much of a choice, but I'm grumbling, man, giving about 60% and the hotel is theirs, that kind of thing. But the other St. Lucia who is realistic will tell you, but at least we're going to get 1,000 jobs. They'll pay a few taxes and they'll buy agricultural produce. They'll do this, the spin-offs we will get. Those guys came in and gave the guys 5,000 files, which means at least 5,000 passports.
You're not communicating very well. They say those guys came in.
The St. Lucia Labour Party
came in.
And who have a problem with foreigners, okay, who accuse the UWP of giving foreigners priority and preference and selling out to foreigners. The St. Lucia Labour Party, under the leadership of Philip J. Pierre, came in with Ernest Hille as the point man, and they gave Galaxy an additional over 3,000 passports. In fact, totaling 5,000. And I say passports, it can be more than 5,000 passports, because 5,000 files. And they explain that a file can be like a family of 4 or 3 or so. But it can be 1. So I'm going at the minimum 1. That's at least 5,000 passports. That, Andre, will give you about $1 billion US. $1 billion US is 1,000 million. 1,000 million US. Now, I understand if you can't find, no,
you said 1,000 million
US dollars, which is almost 3 billion EC dollars. That is the total amount. However, the cost of the hotel is about 400 million US. So, Andre, there is a balance of about 600 million US.
And how many passports was sold, you said, under this?
At least 5,000.
At least 5,000. Is that a fact?
It is, well, they approved 5,000 files. It can be more than 5,000 passports, but it is not less than 5,000 passports. But I'm going with the minimum, it could be 5,000. At the minimum, you're making $1 billion US. The hotel cost came in at about 400 million US.
So you have a balance?
You have a balance of about 600 million US dollars. I am asking a simple question, Andre, a very simple question. What happens to the balance? Because you explain the hotel. Now, Andre, you and I can sit here and argue, boy, whether that's a good deal, think so. I will tell you, boy, we're getting jobs. You'll say, but we could have done that ourselves, whatever. that's a different argument. I'm saying they went that route. What happens to the 600 million US? Where has it gone to? To whom has it gone?
And
Okay.
so far, the government has not given any explanation.
The minister responsible for CIP, Dr. Hilaire, explained to us that he cannot tell us because there's a commercial contractual arrangement with Galaxy, so he'll have to get permission from Galaxy, find out from them whether they agree.
Has he done that?
No, he has not. But he has gone to Dubai, and when speaking to foreigners and investors in Dubai, he actually told them the amount.
Really?
Yes, but the world is small, Andre. I remember speaking in Labon on a platform, and as soon as I got off the platform, somebody called me from New York. Tell me, boy, you just really talk shit on the platform, you know. I say, what? The person said to me, I heard you say you're going to make Labon the capital of Grocery. I say, where you get that already, boy? I just said that. Where you? I am listening to you live. Just like there are people outside of St Lucia listening to us live.
Mm-hmm.
That's the world we're in today. So he went to Dubai and said so.
So, do you know what he said?
5,000. He confirmed that it's 5,000. And in the meantime, Andre.
No, I thought you were talking about the 600 million.
No, he didn't. He has not explained where the 600 million has gone to. He said he cannot even tell us. He wouldn't have. He wouldn't get to explain the 600 million because he wouldn't even tell you how much money it would total. He wouldn't tell you the amount, but he said the amount to them, which means that it is correct. Now, how do we know it is correct, Andre? I grew up hearing that the truth always comes to light. Now, Andre, you can hide it as much as you want, for as long as you want. At some point, it will come to light. Guess what? The contracts were leaked. So it is now in the public domain. You can get a copy of it and read it. It says exactly that.
Exactly what?
That 5,000 files were approved for Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
So, given that fact, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Minister for CIP, Mr. Minister of Investment, what becomes of the $600 million? Andre, I would like to think that in addition to the hotel that they built, now understand me, the people have made an investment, they have taken time to sell passports and to do all of that. They are business people. They're not doing it because they love us. They do it as an investment. So they will get some commission here, they will get some profit there, some interest here and whatever. Fine. But you're saying to me, all of the 600 million US dollars is going to them? That makes sense to you, 100?
No.
Absolutely not. What is coming to us? Now, you said to me, and I agree with you, not only do we have sensible, logical people, intelligent people in government, they are educated people, you know, Andre.
Yes.
You know, in government. So, you and I know something they don't know? Obviously.
So let me ask you another question. Is Galaxy under an obligation to give that information?
No. That's the thing St. Lucians don't understand. These are investors doing business. They don't owe you a thing. Who are you? They sign a contract and they go by the contract. Okay? That's how business people operate. Some of them have conscience or social conscience. They'll come in and say, well, boy, I'm making so much money. I've said, give them a football. Let me give them a playing field. Let me build a school. Yes, build schools, whatever. They don't owe you that, you know, Andre. They don't owe you answers either. It is your government that owes you answers. But you know what? We have a government that refuses to provide us with information, refuses to provide us with answers, and to the point where we have to go to court with the government to get the answers. But we will get the answers. And I want to take a moment here now to put a plug for the leader of the opposition. Go ahead, Andre, your question.
Well, I think you may answer what I was about to ask you.
Yeah.
What you said about the leader of the opposition.
Yes, the leader of the opposition has asked the questions. And of course, given the modus operandi of this present government, they operate as if it is a one-party state, and the fact that they have a 15-2 mandate, you know, they are above the law, they can do what they want, they have all powers within, and so on. They refuse to provide the answers, and so the leader of the opposition has taken the route of the courts. He has taken the CIP unit and the minister to court to provide the answers that we St. Lucians require.
So where does that stand right now in terms of this matter?
Well, I don't know when the hearing is going to be, but we're waiting for a date for the hearing.
So the courts obviously have the power to force the government to give the information?
That is where, when the courts demand, you have to respond accordingly. If you don't, there are consequences. Okay, you can find yourself in jail in whatever color suit they have there. All right, if you go against the court, if you show contempt to the court has recourse. And so that is, and just imagine we have to go to that length, to that extent, in a democracy to get answers from the government we are paying. I was about saying we elect, I didn't elect them, but it still is our government.
Let me ask you a question. What's your feel in terms of how St. Lucians view this particular situation? Do you feel that we really don't care about it?
I don't think it's that we don't care.
Because,
I think we don't fully understand.
We go back to your original point when you first started, when you talked about the sort of people who are in politics and so on, and people support you, right? Because my parents supported the Labour Party or the United Workers' Party, right. That sort of mentality. Do you think that's the case, that the supporters just don't care?
So you brought it back to the point that I want to make in terms of your decision making now, Andre. Because I don't take the time to sit and analyze, assess, and ask questions, I figure, boy, that CIP you're talking about there, Andre, have nothing to do with me.
Also, GPH is another one.
And GPH have nothing to do with me.
In fact, a lot of these things are so complicated,
well,
and that is why it's good to have a strong opposition.
Right.
It's very, very important.
Right.
Yeah.
And they come with a lot of convoluted talk and so on to make it complicated, so that you just decide, you know what, boy, I'm going to be bothered. But it has to be simplified.
Mr. Montoute, in a lot of these cases, it's like walking into a cinema while the movie's already halfway gone.
Right.
And for example, when your party brings these things to the fore, what's going on?
Yeah.
Where did this thing come from all of a sudden?
Right.
Okay.
But you see, we are sometimes very flippant. We dismiss it because we're too lazy to do the research to ask the questions.
And not that too. We have so much confidence in our government that we feel they must be doing what is the best in our interest. That's
right.
how we
feel. And sometimes the shallow explanation that they give, we just accept it, to take it for granted and so on. But that's what we should stop doing. And I'm saying, whether UWP or SLP, question the politician, analyze the situation, think of what they're saying to you, internalize it, and evaluate it for yourself. Because at the end of the day, Andre, it has repercussions for you. Now, like I said to you, Andre, you talk about CIP, you talk about GPH, and I ask myself, what does that have to do with me? The pot is not mine. I'm not the one getting the money from the pot. CIP, what does that have to do with me? Sell passport, and so on. It has everything to do with you. We have a budget of $2 billion, okay? And to finance that budget, a number of taxes are imposed on you, Andre. And I'm saying to you, they have not told you there'll be more taxes to be imposed on you. And the reason why they have not told you so is because election is around the corner. Nobody likes to pay taxes. If they tell you you're going to pay taxes, that might make you reconsider your vote.
Mm-hmm.
That is big. So CIP has nothing to do with you. Well, CIP has nothing to do with you. Well, it has a lot to do with you. Because the $2 billion, our budget for this year, 2025-2026, could have been financed by that money. Okay? Mm-hmm. Where they wouldn't have to charge you $1 tax if you will never find that, but I'm just saying, hypothetical scenario. We could have financed our budget with that money without asking $1 of tax from you and I. That is what it has to do with you. You could have had a better road in the hole where you live in if we had access to that kind of money. Okay? Over $600 million US. The government wouldn't even have to take a loan to build those roads. That is what it has to do with you. When the ports are owned by foreigners, you could have said, you know what, I know your business is media, I want to make some extra dollars. My partner on the block there doing nothing, let me buy a taxi and send him to work on the port. You have no guarantee of that, because I, as the owner of the port, I don't owe you anything. If I decide that it's going to be more in my benefit, my interest, to control everything, to have a monopoly, that's what will be done.
Just explain to us, if you can, on the GPH situation. as it is right now, you said, well, St Lucia is getting $1 US from this arrangement, right?
Right.
So in terms of numbers, what are we looking at? What are we looking at, say, per year? How much is St Lucia receiving, and how much is GPH receiving? Any idea?
I don't have it in front of me now. And the season that we're in, I'm not going to quote anything that will be used because, I have to come to that in a while. Quickly make clips and so on. You said this and you said that and try to put it out of context. But I can tell you, it is in the millions per year.
For GPH?
For GPH. Millions. And so I ask myself, but what kind of decision making is this? What kind of leadership is that? What kind of governance is that? Why would our government do that, Andre? And people can speculate why. I have made my own speculations, but I'm still awaiting the government to give us a plausible explanation for that kind of decision. Andre, in Soufrière, right now, GPH is in control of the docks in Soufrière. They have the tourists coming in on their yachts and so on the smaller boats come there, and they disembark, they pay, GPH collects the fees. You know your boat ride, Andre, you can go there now. Your boat ride now, your boat ride is people like me that's on it. You can go there. Now, you think Stephenson King, as Minister of Infrastructure, he's also responsible for the ports, right, would make a decision like that, knowing that, never mind about independent and patriotic, he's a Labourite, right? He's part of the Labour government. He wants to see the Labour government win the next election. You think he'll take a decision like that? When 5 people on the boat that you came there with start to make noise, call the show and all that kind of thing, they would reverse that decision. You could preach Paul like I told you. You could hit the roof like I told you. Okay? Those people not interested or concerned about you and your noise. If they decide you are an undesirable, that you're not in their financial interests, they just have no time for you. And that is what is happening in our country. We have sold, well, not we, our government has sold out our country under us. That is what has happened to us. Okay? Now, there's some business deals you go into, and I can see the financial sense in it. When the UWP was there, you had a building sitting at Bois d'Orange, the Orange Grove Plaza, what we used to know as the Diamond, and it was just there rotting away. Government didn't want to take go into debt to repair it and so on. They went into an arrangement, form a government-owned company, Amazona, whatever it is, that was the name of the company, and they went into a deal with a developer where the developer bought, the paid a certain amount for the building. The ground floor would belong to them. They would go ahead now and complete the entire building. Upon completion of the entire building with their money, they now would own the bottom floor, but they need their money for the expense that they went through to build the upper floor. Government would give them a guarantee that they would rent the 2 upper floors. I say upper floors. There's the ground floor and then the 2 floors above it. Government would rent that for office space, what have you. Pay $4 a square foot for a period of, I think, about 15 years or so. By that time, they would have recovered their expense, obviously with a little interest, Andre. And the 2 floors becomes the property of government once again. I can understand that. All you can argue is whether the interest rate was too high, too low. That's neither here nor there. We can argue that. In the deal, you should have made them, bring them down to an interest of 1%. But of course, if you want to make a deal, there's a limit and everything, and the businessman will go for his best interest. The government would try to do the best. But that is, I can live with. But when you tell me what happened with the ports, that is not a deal that we have any benefit in. At the end of the day, if they improve the ports now, in 40 years' time, it can be in disrepair again. After they have made all their money, you can just take off and leave a dilapidated port for us. Okay? The next thing is the halls of justice. And mind you, Andre, I want St. Lucians to pay attention to the extent of opaqueness, and for lack of a better word on my part, I don't know what the opposite of transparent is. So if you're not transparent, you're opaque, right? Okay? So for the lack of transparency on the part of government, they will not come and explain the details to us and tell us exactly what the deals are. So the Prime Minister actually openly, publicly said, go and speculate. That's the answers they give us. When media people, and understand, Andre, I keep saying to you, I don't have access to those people. When you, as a media person, go to a press conference, you are supposed to ask the questions that I want answers for. Very often, Andre, you will probably even know the answer already, but you're going to ask the question because you know you're broadcasting to the public and you want to tell the public that is what the answer to your question is. So when you ask the Prime Minister a question, he cannot look at you and say to you, that is not your business. I mean, if you ask the man who bought his shirt for him, I mean, when he tell you that's not your business, you're out of place. Good for you. But when you're asking a legitimate question about the business of the country, you're going to stand at a press conference and say to a reporter, that is not your business. That is the disdain that this government has for us St. Lucians today. Now, what happened with the halls of justice? A foreign company, NH, and this is the government, the party that talk about foreigners, you know. You're telling me we do not have companies in St. Lucia with the capacity to do what NH is doing? But they went to Trinidad and they got a Trinidadian company called NH who's going to build the Hall of Justice for about $143 million according to NH, because our government will not give us that kind of information. But NH really that.
So you're saying that the work on the Halls of Justice, in the opinion of the party, is that St. Lucians could have had that contract?
Yes. Yes.
So what do you think is going on?
Now, never mind how much Reno seemed to be a campaigner for Labour. He has the capacity to do it. He is a St. Lucian. He can jump high, jump low, paint his hair in red. It is St. Lucians he going to employ. Okay? He will be passing by, he's thirsty, he'll stop by my bar to buy a bottle of water. I'm saying it will redound to the benefit of the average St. Lucian at the end of the day.
So again, the government didn't give any explanation as to why they chose a foreign company.
They didn't. And there is Fresh Start, the company that they vilified and so on, that they now have gone back to. They could have done it. There is Nationwide. There are a number of companies, you know, of people like Ned and all those guys, I forget the name, Mega Construction, you know. Those, let me stop here because I don't want to name a few and leave out some. Because next thing you say, because Andre is a Labour, I didn't mention his company, and I mentioned this one because he's UWP. That's not what I'm into. I'm saying a St. Lucian company. They asked the companies on a scale where they could have undertaken that project. Okay? And I'm saying the benefit of that is that when they undertake that project, Andre, most of the money stays here. Even they now with their millions, here they're going to spend it. They're going to build a new house or something. It is our local workers who are going to benefit. I mean, I don't have to go into the details of the spin-offs. And so, when you tell me we're going to pay about $143 million, but we're going to pay back over $200 million, because for 12 years or so, we're going to be paying rent to NH. So they would have recovered the $143 million. Obviously, there must be an interest, Andre, because they're not doing it because they like you, like I said. It's a business arrangement. But you're going to tell me they're going to make close to $100 million in profit? Because they're going to get over $200 million we're going to pay back.
You mean the Trinidad company?
We're going to pay back to the Trinidad company over $200 million. Now, tell me something. When you see those kind of exorbitant, one-sided, lopsided deals, Andre, that is a deal. Who benefits from that deal? Quite apart from a foreign company. Our government is not representing a foreign company, it's representing us St. Lucians. So who else? There must be a St. Lucian benefiting from that. There has to be a St. Lucian benefiting from that because our government is here to represent the interests of St. Lucian. Who are the St. Lucian? Who is the St. Lucian benefiting from that? That's the question I want to ask. Andre, tell me what you want. That smacks of corruption at the highest level. Okay? That is not kicked back to say, you give Renault a fresh start or Nationwide or Mega Construction a job, and in the end, they build a road for you and so on. And I don't call that kickback, because who uses the road? It's St Lucians. You understand what I'm saying? That cannot be acceptable. That cannot be allowed to continue. And that is what we have. And you know why they don't want to provide you with information? Because there are things to hide. Andre, if I have nothing to hide, you ask me what is in my cup. Okay? I'll tell you it's water. But if that white substance is something else, Andre, we're not having that discussion, because I don't want to disclose, I don't want to reveal. Once there is secrecy, it means there is something to hide. Once there is something to hide, it means that there's something untoward. When there is something untoward, there is corruption. Bottom line.
So what is your party's main concern concerning that particular project with the Trinidad company?
Okay, first of all, we are concerned about the kind of deals our government enters into with foreigners. And at the end of the day, Andre, we have to pay it back, because you do not directly go to NH and say, my contribution to the millions that are owed to you is $10. You don't go to NH with $10. They'll feel you not paying. You and I are the ones paying it back. You understand what I'm saying? That is the concern. Now, when we do that, we are impoverishing our country. We are strangling our country with unnecessary debt. Andre, all countries borrow. But you must do it judiciously. You must do it within a certain range that is manageable and that is controlled. You cannot just engage in largesse that is unexplained to us, that is irrational, and that is unsustainable. When you do that, you're destroying the country. Somebody is benefiting. I know one of the parties is the foreign company. And at the end of the day, who else is benefiting for accommodating those deals? You cannot have a government like that running our country. And these are some of the main reasons why I will use every fiber in my body. I will campaign vigorously to ensure that St. Lucians understand that that government is not in our best interest. That government is running our country into the ground. Especially given the global environment that we're in now. We must try to save and manage every asset and all the resources that this country has. Okay? So at the end of the day, Andre, when all of these things happen, then the government has to run the country. And they have to make you see that things are going as usual. What do? They engage in gouging, tax gouging. Okay? What do I mean? Apart from the fact that we pay VAT, we pay income tax, we pay all of those things, which is expected, they have come with an artificial tax, they call it a levy of 2.5% on goods and services. And it is a compounded tax. That's the thing I mourn most about. It's a compounded tax. So they say to use 2.5, but at the end of the day, you may end up paying 7.5%. Because by the time Andre brings the goods, he pays 2.5, he passes on to me. I am the middleman, I pass it on to the end guy who is the retailer. The retailer now goes to and you know who pays all of that? The consumer. Okay, so I end up with about 7.5% as opposed to 2.5%. Then, in the world, thank God, the price of oil has gone down. Oil is a major part of everyday life here. We use it to generate electricity, to put in our transport, to cook our food and everything, whether you call it gas or whatever it is. On the world market, we found ourselves in a situation where the price of a barrel of oil on the world market was less than $70. Less than $70. Yet still, in St. Lucia, we are paying $16.50 a gallon for gas. Understand, to put it into perspective, there was a time when oil was sky high. The price of a barrel of oil on the world market was in the area of $120. Mm-hmm. And in St. Lucia, the price of a gallon of gas was $13.95. $120 a barrel on the world market. In St. Lucia, you go to the pump and you could have gotten a gallon of gas for $13.95. Today, it is below $70 on the world market. You go to the pump and you have to pay $16.50. Now you ask, how come? When prices go down, it should redound to the benefit of the consumer. Why are we paying more when the price is less? That is because your government is engaging in gouging. They are exploiting the people of St. Lucia because they're supposed to pass on the savings from the lowering in the cost. They're supposed to pass on that saving to you, the consumer, but they're not doing it. They're taking that money. And that is why they're boasting every year that their projection was so many millions and they made so many more millions. Now, and while they're smiling and laughing, you know, it's from your pocket they're taking it. Okay? It's from your pocket they're taking it. They said the 2.5 was only temporary, but it's still there. And it's going to continue to be there. The IMF is proposing to them that they should bring the VAT back to 15%. They're not going to talk about that now. But if you make the mistake of electing a St. Lucia Labour Party government, as soon as they get back into office, they're going to slap you with another 2.5% on VAT. You know, these are the things that we have to be mindful of. And you know, when that happens, it's irreversible for the next 5 years. So, precaution. Yellow alert, Andre. Do not make that mistake. Ensure that you protect yourselves, your country, and your interests by ensuring that you get rid of a government that would do things like that. Okay? Get rid of them. Because there are too many egregious acts on the part of this government that we're just allowing to slide and we're behaving as if it is normal and so on. Of course, I understand that there's an element of fear because the St. Lucia Labour Party government know how to intimidate. I could tell you that. You speak against them and they come after you. Well, St. Lucians, you do not have to be afraid. We are at the juncture where they have to be afraid, not you, because the power is now in your hands. Your vote is what decides their future. So they will come humble, they'll, come and make you all kind of promises, try to buy you out. And I understand that politicians are all over the place giving vouchers all of a sudden, $50 vouchers and that kind of thing to people. Now, I'm not saying if people require assistance and they can get it, it is bad. But you have to understand the principle behind what is going on. That's the kind of regard that they have for you. They want to keep you dependent on them so that you'll always be in need, you'll always be hungry. As opposed to creating an environment and facilitating your advancement and development where you become self-sufficient and independent, where you do not need a politician to give you a $50 voucher. You can fend for yourself. That would make you too independent for them. And then you'd be in a position to stand up for yourself and to make decisions for yourself and call shots on them. And that is what they do not want. I'm saying to you, the UWP has a different approach. They want to make you progress. When UWP is in office, we have a stronger middle class. Labour Party believes in keeping people dependent, and that's why their slogans, their modus operandi, the policies, everything they do is to keep you as a Malawi. Think of your benefit, think of your interests, think of your future, and make wise decisions as far as the future of your country is concerned.
Let's go back to the halls of justice situation, because I still am a little in the dark as to what exactly the problem is as far as the party is concerned. You saying the Trinidad and Tobago, well, first of all, you're saying that this contract should have been given to a local contractor.
Could have been, yeah.
Could have been, but not should have been.
Right. Because you see, sometimes, Andre, understand, you will tell me, but UWP had this contract and it's a foreign company who did it and so on.
Mm-hmm.
There are times when you get a loan from the Caribbean Development Bank or from the World Bank or from those international agencies or even the Taiwanese government, and they say to you, they dictate the conditions. It has to be open bidding, open to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Taiwanese may give you a contract and they will, a grant, and they will say to you, it is to build this building here, and it is a Taiwanese company that will do it. You want the money, you can call shots here. So you have to do that.
So in the case of the halls of justice,
it is not anything like that. The guys are using, because the reason why they lease the property to them is because they're using that as leverage to raise the funds, the money that is needed to build the thing. We could give a local company the same privilege to use the government property to leverage for securing their loan the same way. That could have been done.
Okay.
And so government could call the shot, hey, this is a government thing. You understand what I'm saying? And so these are the things.
Sorry, so that was one issue.
Yeah.
The other issue has to do with what this foreign company is spending to build the halls of justice. I think you quoted 143 million, something like that?
That's what they said, yeah.
Right, and you're saying now when this is complete and the government now has to repay the company, we end up paying over $200 million.
Yeah, and these are the things they're not telling us. Now, meanwhile, they're criticizing the UWP for the deal they went into at the Diamond Orange Grove Plaza. But what it would have done is, while we are paying back the $4 per square foot for the next 15 years or 14 or 15 years, that's to repay the investor. While we're doing so, government would be utilizing office space at a much cheaper rate than they do right now, because the average office space the average amount government is paying for office space right now, Andre, is about $750. But they negotiated that they'll be paying $4 per square foot. So that would be a savings if you move into it. Now, I understand government do a lot of things to create employment, generate wealth, and so on for people. But at the end of the day, government has to manage its finances, its resources as well. So, but Andre, they will not pull out of your building, Andre, because you're a financier of the party. You're a friend of the guys and so on. So if they pull out from your building, that's rent you lose. But they're not concerned about the savings that we would make. And so they have the building empty while they're paying $7.50, $7 and so on for office space for government. What kind of operation is that? What kind of government do we have? And you say we poor, we have limited resources. That is a clear case of wastage of resources. But they don't care. It's not their money. These are the kinds of decisions that I hear the UWP speaking against, which means that they cannot come into office and do the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? And we have to take a step.
You mean they should not?
Well, if they do, Andre, believe it or not, I, being one of those who is happy with that decision and advocating on their behalf, I will turn around the same way, Andre, and blast them and criticize them for not living up to their word.
Well, it's good to hear you say that.
Believe me.
What about the other issue?
Before I do that, I'll caveat. Before I do that, I'll internally tell them that, as y'all remember, y'all said so and so and so. But if they refuse to hear, if they refuse to listen, I will go public.
What about the other issue of not providing answers? Because that this was almost a refrain on the part of the Labour Party when they were in opposition. They kept, especially the Prime Minister, kept saying in many interviews I did with him that he's asking questions of your government at the time, and refused to give answers.
CIP. They had many questions about CIP, and they claim that they are not being provided answers. But Andre, if you go on the CIP website, you'll see the reports that the United Workers' Party government under Alan Shastney presented to St Lucians. So you can know. You don't have to even ask. You can go and find out for yourself and know how many passports were approved for Galaxy, how much money was made. We even know where the money was spent. Okay, I can't remember everywhere, but I remember when we had some storm, or was it a hurricane or storm, when bananas were destroyed and so on, they gave money to farmers. Okay? COVID came, they took some of that money and they used it to help feed people and do things like that. I can actually tell you where some of those money. If I want to give you all the details, I simply have to go to the website and get all the details for you, or tell you go there and you see it for yourself. A report is supposed to be tabled by law every year on the CIP. It took 2 years for Ernest Hiller to table a report. 2 years. And by the time he tabled the report for that year was already due. Okay? That was back in September, October last year.
So let me ask you
up to now, we have not gotten that report.
So why wouldn't that report include an explanation as to where the 600 million went to?
Again, Andre, the simple answer to that is when there is something to hide, there is little disclosure.
So that was not in the report, that information wasn't there?
No, it wasn't. And that's why we are asking the question. You're supposed to reveal that information. And the excuse is that it's, because Andre, I go into a commercial arrangement with you where Or, you don't want to publish it because your competitor may, come and outbid you or jump in and so on. I understand that. But when we were there, we were publishing it. You can go to Dubai and publish it. So it is just a cheap excuse that is being used by Ernest Ile, an act of dishonesty on his part to say that, because there was no such restriction on him that he could not tell the people of St. Lucia what was happening. Okay? And that is why. Now, but Emma Hippolyte said it openly. She went and negotiated about the SUF report with GPH on a secret date, and they made secret deals. She actually said it.
Don't you think maybe your party is making too much of that?
No. If we knew what the details were, I'll dismiss that as just rhetoric. But she said it was a secret deal, and we do not know the deal up to now. So it was a secret deal. You know what I'm saying? So we're not making too much of it. Now, tell me, my business is supposed to be a secret to me? I mean, come on. You're here to serve me and to act on my behalf and to report to me. And so we are demanding, Andre. We're not begging. We're not asking, in any begging way or anything like that. We have a right to know. In a democracy, we have a right to know. But again, the psyche of the Labour Party, the modus operandi of the Labour Party is that they want to be a single state, a single party state, where when they are in opposition, they ask all questions and behave as if, they have to know everything, and quite rightly so. But when they are in government, you can't dare ask them questions. You can't dare challenge them, and so on. They actually attack people who ask questions, I mean, on a weekly basis, you see El Papo, the Minister of Housing in the Prime Minister's office, that the Prime Minister handpicked and trying to distance himself from him now by saying he's not a member of his party. We hear him abuse people. I mean, somebody complained about the fact that they blocked the road without any notice, and the person had difficulty to get to their home and so on. The person just complained about that. Man launched a scathing attack on the lady, That's the kind of government we have now. Don't even say anything that sounds like it's not complimentary to the government, Well, I'll say to them, you may scare some St. Lucians with that tactic. You're not going to scare all of us with it, because many of us know that we have a right to speak in a democracy, we have a right to know in a democracy, and we have a right to criticize you and take you on in a democracy. And don't forget the ultimate. We have a right to vote, and we'll vote you out if that's the attitude and the approach you have. And I'm calling on St. Lucians, if they endorse that kind of behavior, before they know it, there'll be no such thing called democracy in St. Lucia anymore. Because what you'll be doing is facilitating the moves towards a one-party state. You'll be facilitating the dictatorial attitude of some of the members of this present government and making them think that it is cool, it is right, it is acceptable, and that they'll do it. My mother used to always say, when they give you an inch, you take a yard. So before you even take the inch, she'll stop you.
Again, I want to ask you, all the issues that you brought up this morning in terms of the halls of justice, GPH, Galaxy, the petrol situation, right? Are you feeling on the ground that St. Lucians care about those things?
Well, they care about the gas prices, for sure, because they're feeling it. They care about the high taxes. They care about the high cost of living. I don't think they care enough about the implications of GPH. I don't think they care enough about the implication of CIP. I don't think they care enough about some of those things. But they have to begin to be made aware of the implications of those things for them, so that they can begin to put it into perspective and understand the effect it has on their lives. It's about quality of life. Now, when a government will tell you, I'm charging you to 2.5%, which is a compounded tax, I have to always say that, for health and security, which was a lie. Okay? It was to secure a loan from the CDB. But, Andre, I can hardly say anything. Let's face it, Andre, you'll be the first to tell me how important health is. You'll be the first to tell me how important security is. And then you'll turn around and tell me how expensive healthcare is and so on. So, I don't like to pay the tax, but I bite my tongue and I pay the tax. But apart from the fact that it's a lie, while I'm paying that tax, Andre, for health and for security, I'm hearing the people who are in the health sector, who have first-hand knowledge and involvement in what is happening in our health system, are saying that our health situation, our healthcare situation in St. Lucia today is the worst that it has ever been. So you're saying I am paying you an extra 2.5% to make the health system worse than it has ever been before? That is what we have done, Andre. Put it into context. That is what we have done. Then, Andre, you're telling me some of that money is going to security. My understanding of security is to enforce law and order, to curb crime, to ensure that we have proper policing and all of those things. Andre, while you charging me 2.5% for security, I find out people that I know, people that have some connection with me, are being killed on the streets of St. Lucia. I look at Facebook and I see them in the drain, bleeding, on the road, dying, in their homes, where at the end of the day, Andre, I listen to you reading the news, and this year we had record homicides of 77 St. Lucians being killed. Until that's what I'm paying for? No. If I am going to pay extra for those important, mind you, very important aspects of our lives in St. Lucia, health and security, if I'm going to pay 2.5% more, and like I say, it's more than 2.5% because it's compounded, I expect to see some improvement. Okay? I don't expect to see it get worse. We have paid through our teeth to make things worse in St. Lucia. That is because we have a government that is clueless, a government without a plan. Okay? And let's be real. Let's face it. How else you explain what I've just said there? These are the realities we have to face in this country. So, Andre, because every week you're telling me somebody died in St. Lucia, so now it's like telling me, Andre, I know why you people like you don't behave like the English people. You go to England, and beautiful weather today, this and that. You don't talk about the weather. I never come here and tell me why the weather is, because every day is the same thing, Andre. Mm-hmm. I remember we used to make a joke about Mary Polius reading the weather report. And we know the weather report already. Partly cloudy, sunny. Yes. That is the weather report in St. Lucia. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's not a subject. You become so immune to it, so numb. It's so normal. It's so everyday. That's just it. So I just listened to you say another person died, another person died. Andre, there was a time when I step in here. You say, boy, somebody died in my neighborhood. Maybe some lady, 90 years old. I'm not saying 90 years old should die, but you have a lifespan. Maybe a person who has lived there full. You make a point about mentioning that to me. Today, Andre, for you to say to me, boy, another person was killed, probably have to be 4 people killed on that day, for it to make news or for it to become a talking point. That is so commonplace. That has become so normalized. No, we cannot have a country like this, Andre. That's not the country we know. That's not the country we need. You understand what I'm saying? And so people have become numb and immune to those kind of things, and it has become acceptable, it has become standard. And the Minister of National Security, who is your Prime Minister, just shrugs it off by telling you, look, man, I am a police. It's my father that was a police. So don't come to me if you're nonsense. That is what passes for government in St. Lucia today. And so I'm saying, Andre, I don't know your business. You may have somewhere else to go. I don't. Even if I had the option to go somewhere, here's where I want to be. However, I want to be here living a good life. Living a good life doesn't mean I have to be a millionaire, Andre. I want to be able to live a life where I am safe, where I am free, where I can speak, and I can survive. Full stop. Okay? If that is in jeopardy, I have a problem. And I'm going to fight to defend and protect that. This government is putting all of those things in jeopardy. I don't live in Viewport, but I try to imagine what it would be like if in Grocery tomorrow they tell me by 5 o'clock I have to leave Rodney Bay, where there are some shopping centers and so on, and be home, because 6 o'clock come meet me outside. I want to know why, because that's my freedom you're infringing on there right now, because criminals have taken control of the area. Now, Andre, that sounds like a Nancy story, right? That's a movie to you. That's the things you used to go to Clark and Gaiety to watch. Mm-hmm. Andre, that happened here. That happened in Viewport. criminals put curfews on St. Lucians. Can you imagine that? The first time I heard the word curfew was when there was a revolution in Grenada, and foreign word to me. And now I'm living it. And the only other time I should have ever have to hear that word in St. Lucia is if a COVID-20 comes. I don't know if they have any such thing. So COVID-19, I accepted a curfew. It was necessary, it was unforeseen circumstance. But no man is going to come and impose no curfew on me, just so, because you feel you can run the show and take over the country and run amok like it happened in Beaufort. People, be careful. And that happened under the watch of this government. And now that's a drastic development, you know. What drastic measure has taken place to ensure that does not happen again? Andre, we will get some reprieve, and the government will want to talk about there's a decrease in homicide. There will naturally be a decrease in homicide because most of our homicides were based on gang violence. Now, if the gangs are killing each other, naturally it will reduce to an extent. Naturally, there are not as many gang members to kill. Most of them have died. Some of those doing the killing have died, and so on. So there's a reduction. That's not the reduction. Not the form of the method we're looking for reduction. We want to know that even if there are gang members existing right now, that they know their place, that they know that that will not be tolerated in this country, and there's no place for that in this country. You have to be tough on crime. And I say, and I'm going to repeat it, the reason why our government cannot be tough on crime is because they are compromised. I will say that every day, you know. And I remember a time when the UWP found themselves in a little bit of a tangle on the issue of crime. Because when you have people in your midst who are perpetrators of crime, who are you to come and condemn people for crime? You don't have the legitimacy, you don't have the authority. And that is something the government has to look at. Okay? So, Andre, I mean, if I may go back to the nitty-gritty, what matters to everyone who you cannot tell me that you cannot see how you're affected by those things is when bus fares, Andre, have gone up. That's a direct consequence of the price of fuel. Whereas the price of fuel has gone down on the world market, it remains high on the St. Lucian market. Bread, Andre. I don't know, Andre, some of y'all become so sophisticated now. It's cereal and all of those things y'all eat, but we in St. Lucia know. You wake up in the morning, bread. If you're going to school or you're going to work or you don't have time to cook, bread. You come home in the evening, bread. Some people eat bread 3 times a day. Mm-hmm. Bread is a staple in St. Lucia. That is one of the commodities you ought to control the price of and keep it as low as possible, especially, Andre, especially for poor people, especially for single parents. That is one thing, if anything else, that is deserving, that you can justify subsidy for that. But what have we seen? They have lowered the subsidies on rice, flour, and sugar. They have not, instead of increasing it, they have lowered it. As a result, and of course with the increased price of fuel, the high price of fuel rather, because a baker uses an oven, most of them gas ovens, they transport their flour, they transport their bread, all of that is included on the price of the bread. So your bread went from 25 cents, Andre, to 45 cents. With 25 cents a loaf, you could have gone to the bakery, and I want to emphasize that for St. Lucians to understand what has happened to them in the last 3 years. You could have gone to the bakery with $1 and go home with 4 loaves. Odessa ali a acheté pain en bakery pour 25 cents. Acheter des sous?
Asking me?
Yes, acheter des sous pour 25 cents. Et vous avez la caillou avec 4 pains. Jordia, ou kaswen 2 pains pour $1 seulement. 2 pains. Because a loaf has been increased almost 100%, almost 100%, to 45 cents for a loaf. So your dollar can only give you 2 loaves today. You know what that has done to the single parent? You know what that has done to the poor people? That if a government is truly concerned and truly caring, they would ensure that did not happen. And Andre, it didn't that to happen, where the price of bread could have remained at 25 cents, because the price of fuel fortunately went down. we could have kept it at that. You know,
it's almost 10:30.
Yes.
I don't know if you're going to be taking any calls today.
We are taking calls by all means, and so you can open the line, Andre.
Okay.
But before we go further, Andre, I want you to remind our viewers and listeners that we are on YouTube nowadays.
That's right.
That's a welcome development. You know, and so we can give the numbers.
not just on YouTube, but live on YouTube.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so we want to give the number, Andre, for
Sure.
some of those who are probably listening for the first time.
If you'd like to call, the fixed line is 572-9710, 572-9710, or the WhatsApp platform, it is 287-0971. WhatsApp is 287-0971. Again, fixed line 572-9710, or WhatsApp 287-0971. We have a first call on the WhatsApp platform.
Good morning. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Caller, please go ahead and make your contribution.
Good morning, Spider.
Good morning.
And good morning to Andre and all your listeners and viewers.
Good morning to you, sir.
Spider, has the government stopped the Unora International Airport redevelopment project?
Yes, they have. I mean, because nothing is happening there, so they have.
Okay. Now, this was a project, about 175 million US dollars.
Correct.
The value of that project.
Right.
And I know that the government at the time had taken a loan from the Exim Bank of Taiwan,
Yeah.
along with a consortium of local banks,
Right.
and to fund that project.
Correct.
And then the government legislated a tax, airport development tax,
That's
ADT,
right. ADT, yes.
of about $35 US per passenger
Right.
departing St Lucia from either of the airports.
Right. And
Now-
that would go towards repaying that loan that we would have gotten from the banks.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, Spider, I want to go back a little bit further. And in 2011, in February, the government of the time, that was the UWP under Stephenson King, and at the time, Alan Shastney was the Prime Minister, was the Minister of Tourism.
Right.
And that's where that whole project started, or was conceptualized in February. The bill was passed through the House, and the tax was imposed then, I think, around April. But
Right.
when the Labour Party won the elections in November of 2011, I think sometime around 2012, April and May of 2012, the Kenny Anthony SLT administration declared that the tax was almost illegal,
Right.
because there was no work ongoing on that project. So why should you be collecting taxes from people and you're not doing any work with the money?
Right.
It's kind of a bit, dishonest.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward, Spider, to today. The Labour Party came into power in July of 2021. They stopped the airport project sometime afterwards.
Right.
What has happened to the loan?
Well, I have no idea. Because they don't disclose. They don't tell us what is happening. But meantime, they're still collecting the money, no?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if it was in 2012 that this same Labour Party, with the same actors in terms of the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister then, is now the Prime Minister today.
Right.
When Kenny declared that collecting the money and not having ongoing works on the project, that was almost illegal and dishonest.
Right.
But they're doing exactly the same thing now.
That's right.
And they have not stopped the collection of the taxes. Now, Spider, it'd be interesting. The airport, on an annual basis, has about 400,000 arrivals. Now, if we count in 2024 and 2023, about 800,000 arrivals. And then in 2022, let's say a little bit less because we're coming out of COVID. And from August of 2021 to December of 2021, 25% of 400, about 100,000.
Right.
We're talking about over 1 million arrivals multiplied by $35. That's 35 million US
right,
dollars.
Right.
Spider, where's that money?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. I am sorry to tell you, sir, while your government owes it to you to provide you with that information and to give you those answers, I am not betting on it. You know, they may very well tell you that's not your business.
Now, Spider, I would assume that in the estimates that money is recorded as income.
Right.
But what the estimates does not tell us is whether this money is in some lockbox. And when I'm not referring to a physical lockbox, this is a financial term.
Right.
That is being specifically earmarked for what it was designed to pay for. So all of these monies that come into the airport is earmarked for the redevelopment of the airport.
Right.
It should not be used for anything else.
Yeah.
But why is the airport in such terrible condition? Can't they take a couple million from that lockbox and do some repairs on the airport in the interim until they decide what to do with the airport?
Well, I mean,
The airport is leaking.
you know, these are the things we have to be concerned about, you know, what is happening to our country or what is not being done in this country at the moment. Because, Connor, you spoke about, you know, what the government is doing and so on. We earlier spoke about the GPH and all of that. Now, you talked about the airport. The plan for the South, apart from improving the airport, we will have more passengers coming to the airport because there was a plan to build a port in Viewport, a cruise ship port for home porting. Now, let me just explain quickly to our listeners what this means.
By the way, you have another caller.
Yeah. So that means the ships would pick up passengers here in St Lucia. So if you're going to cruise to wherever, you catch the boat here in St Lucia. It means you have to take a flight to St Lucia. So if that boat has a capacity of 2,000 people, that's an additional 2,000 people will be coming through our airport, paying that tax and so on, that we'll be benefiting from. But I'm sorry to tell you, caller, that is not going to happen because part of the GPH deal is that nothing be done in terms of development with the Viewport port.
You have another call.
Yeah. Yes, good morning, caller. Welcome to Meet the Opposition.
Hello?
Go ahead and make your contribution, please.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yes. The question of the increase in the price of bread, which was quite a large increase. I mean, you're talking about an increase of what 80-something%?
Exactly.
One time, that was quite a blow. And I have no doubt that it's causing a lot of pain at the various households.
Right.
My question to you is, what are the plans of your party in case it was to get into power? Does it have a plan to reduce the price of bread?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
I think that will cause a lot of relief in every home in St Lucia.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller. First and foremost, that's not totally within our control, but if the price of fuel remains as low as it is, we are going to lower the price of gas at the pump here in St. Lucia. And so that in itself will reduce the cost of transportation, remove the cost of the gas that is used to bake the bread and so on. So that can go towards lowering the price. Besides, when we talk about subsidy, we cannot subsidize everything, but the UWP will engage in what we call targeted subsidy. And so one of the things that will be targeted is the flour that is being used by the bakers to bake the Creole bread that everyone uses. We are going to subsidize that to a greater extent to ensure that we keep the price down, because of course the bakers must make their profit if they're in business. But that is what on our part as government will be done to ensure that we can bring the price of bread back down so that the average person can afford it.
Another call.
Good morning, caller. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Go ahead, please, make your contribution.
Good morning, Mr. Paul. Good morning, Spider.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, Spider.
Yes, sir.
You know I come in hard on y'all.
Well, let me hear you. Let me see. It's a pity you're not coming hard on the government, though, that is in control of all the misery we're facing.
Like, we can match our as well. You was in government when Dyer building sold. You was in government when it buy. So now you say about GPH, about the halls of justice, they making how much a profit and whatever. same like the diamol?
No, sir, not at all.
Because
before you go any further, it's not the same. It is not the same. The point I was making, I did say that I did mention the diamol, and I was making the comparison in terms of the deals that were made. And the deal that was made on the diamol, which is the Orange Grove Plaza, is far more in the interest and the favor of St. Lucians than what was done with GPH and NH.
Okay.
Far more.
Let me ask you a question. The diamol that Mr. Alan Chasney sold.
Alan Chasney didn't sell no mall. The government sold it through the company that they formed.
Well, he was in government at that time.
Yeah, so why didn't you say I sold it? What I'm saying is the government that sold it.
I never said you sold it. I said Alan Chasney.
And I'm telling you, it's not Alan Chasney, it's the government.
Okay, the Alan Chasney government, if you want me to put it that way. Now, let's go ahead. Now, did you all receive any money? Or did you have any document to show that you all received, the government received any money for that diamol?
So let me tell you something. When you engage in business at that level for a sale, does not necessarily entail the exchange of dry cash. Okay, I do not have the details of the transaction before me, but it could have possibly been that, okay, it was handed over to them for whatever amount, 13 million or whatever the amount was. But in the entire deal, there would be the transactions that would take place, one would offset the other, and so on. Is a question of balancing and so on. I do not know the details of that. There's a company, the Amazona Properties, that's the company that was responsible for that and dealing with that. If you want the details, if you want the details, I can actually find it for you, because we are not in the secret business of hiding information.
But that's what we want, because we keep annexing that document, and we not getting it because they have no receipt showing.
That's not true.
Now,
hold on. No, I will not allow your lies to just go unchallenged. That is not true what you just said there. Because I, on one of my shows, actually came with documents from the transaction that took place there, and I showed it on television. So don't say about we hiding anything. You have nothing to hide. I'm telling you, I don't have the facts before me now, and I know what season we're in. I'm not going to try to speak off the top of my head if I'm not sure of the information, and to give information that you all will make a big song and dance about it and focus on it as if that is the issue. I'm not going to do that.
Let we move on. You're wasting too much time. I have more things.
You are the one wasting time.
No.
If you just ask all your questions and let me answer, then we'll go on.
You say the government doing a bad work. I want to challenge you.
And you don't agree that they are?
When Alan's... What you say?
And I'm sure you agree that they are. You can challenge any of the things that I said?
Okay, like you said...
Hold on. I didn't just say they're doing a bad job. I pointed out where they're doing a bad job. Can you challenge any of the things that I said?
So let me come in now. So I want you to answer that question. The unemployment under the Alan Chasney government, the unemployment, how was it?
Okay.
And now.
Okay.
To compare now.
All right.
What is it? What's the difference?
Okay. When we came into office in 2016, the unemployment rate was about 25%.
And what is it now?
Okay. So I was saying that when we got into office in 2016, the unemployment rate was about 25%. In 3 years, we brought it down to 15%. In 3 years, the unemployment rate for young people was about 40-something%, and we brought it down as well, I think, in the 30s. What happened was when COVID came, obviously, I don't have to explain that. There was a crash in the economy and everything. The unemployment rate went back up. Today, our current government is telling us that the unemployment rate is, for the first time in our history, single digit. It's 8-point-something% and so on. That
8.8
in itself, that in itself is hogwash, and I'll tell you why. If you are using a different measuring stick to measure the same thing, you get different results. You must explain to people why you get a different result. So, you're going to take a yardstick and you're going to take a meter stick. and you measure, you're going to get different figures. But tell people it's because you're using different units. So, for example, when we were in office, you'd, say, interview Andre. He has not been working for the last 10 years or whatever. He's of working age. He is part of the unemployment. Today, for example, Andre stopped looking for work since 5 years ago. They don't consider him to be on the unemployment list. That in itself changes the figure. So, in other words, what I'm saying to you is that you can go and find out what the details are, but they were using different approaches, different methods to measure the same thing. That is why you have the difference in figures. The government never explained that to you, so that's why you are confused and you're believing what they say wholesale and comparing it to the figures of the UWP. That is orange and apples being compared.
Mr. Spider?
Yes, sir.
When they're measuring it, is it like Labour Party have their own people measuring it, or UWP have their own measure, or is this the same person that measure for both parties?
Okay, it is the statistics department very often that does those things, but if there is a new system of measurement, that's what they go by. They move away from the old form of measuring it to a new one, and so they got different results. I'm not telling you that with the result they got is not true. Well, it's different because they use different yardsticks to measure.
Okay. Let me give you
sorry, Mr. Sonson. I'm sorry. We have to take other calls here. We're taking close to 10 minutes, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, hello. Good day. Welcome to
I've
Media
been
Opposition.
waiting here for the past 15 minutes, even before the gentleman came on.
Sorry about
there
that.
seems to be a problem in the connections, because that's not the first time this is happening to me. So, Andre, check it out for me, okay?
When you say a problem with the connection, what do you mean?
Because when I called, somebody else called, I'm on hold, and then I can hear the person, I can hear you, as if I'm talking to you, however, you cannot hear me.
No, because I didn't put you on airs yet. But you can hear the conversation, yes.
Okay, what do you probably try to do
Anyway,
to follow? If you
I have
me?
two things I want to say, yeah? One, Spider, I think sometimes the United Workers' Party is putting out too much information, giving the Labour Party information to put in their manifesto to come and fight y'all with it. So be careful. I think sometimes y'all do like America. Y'all are putting out a lot of concrete and good information, and y'all have to be very careful of that.
Caller, the thing is,
they might use it against y'all as ammunition.
The thing is, if I say something and you come and repeat it, people have to ask themselves, well, you have to check your record, your history.
No, but sometimes the people might not have heard it.
And ask yourself whether who you can trust with the information. Besides, we also have to deal with the fact that some of our people are saying that they want to hear what our plans are.
Yes, I do agree, but we have to be careful. Yeah. We have to be careful. But I do agree with what you just said there.
Yeah.
Number two, I heard about there is something that you all would want to start, where when persons have lost their jobs, they would be able to go to government, and government might be able to help them for a few months after. But I want to know how long after would the persons be able to get benefits from government? Because sometimes persons may take that and use it like the dole in England.
You know what you just did to me?
They might abuse it.
You know what you just did there to me?
Huh?
You know what you just did there to me?
What?
You tell me, look, don't ever do that again. And then you say, go ahead and do it.
What I'm saying is, I heard it, and I'm saying to myself,
but
if y'all are going to do that,
they will flesh it out.
Y'all have to be careful, because you cannot let it go too long. Sometimes persons may not even want to go looking for another job because they're getting money from government.
That's correct.
So therefore, be careful that y'all it doesn't turn like the dole in England.
Right.
Some persons are abusing it.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And I want to tell you one more.
Yes.
One more. Can you take for one more?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Since you waited so long, I will give you that.
I waited. Okay, now, y'all have spoken about $75,000 for insurance for persons. It's like an NIC. It's like, okay?
Right.
It's going to be like an NIC. Okay. Will that be for only medicals? It would medicals of your body and not your teeth. Because I notice sometimes in medicals, they don't include teeth. They just include other things, but not teeth.
Okay.
And is it for only St Lucia alone? Or it can be if you have to go like to Barbados or Martinique or wherever.
All of those details.
Thank you, caller. Thank you.
All of those details will have to be worked out, caller. I'll be very honest if I don't have all those details, but I'm sure they will not include cosmetics and so on. Like maybe they might include dental, but I want to put a little gold on my teeth. They may not entertain that. But it will be all fleshed out and explained, and you'll learn a lot more about that when the manifesto comes out, when the candidates because what they're going to do for sure, I can tell you from experience, they're going to have certain candidates, looking at certain portfolios and speaking on certain topics. So they will give you all the details on that.
Next call.
Yes, caller, sorry for keeping you waiting. Good morning. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Spider. Andre, good morning. How are you guys doing?
Morning. How are you?
Morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing good, man. Interesting, very interesting, listening to some of the conversation here. But I want to say something when people of St. Lucia keep bringing up that argument when it comes to certain projects being run. Andre, you might appreciate what I'm about to say because I notice you ask a lot of questions concerning those very things. You have the radio station right now operating. Now, you may not be a good manager, but you are a good DJ. In your case, what would you need? Would you bring another DJ in? Wouldn't you bring someone to manage that place for you?
Well, I would have to admit that I'm doing a lapo job in the first place.
Okay, so that's very important.
That's right.
We have established that point. Now, let's move that same scenario to GPH with our ports. My brother, we worked at that port before. We actually created a place for mega ships to come in. That means we have the capability in constructing that project, right?
That's right.
So we can bring someone on the outside maybe to manage. That would save the country money, a lot more money, instead of giving the port away for someone to actually run that port and collect all our revenue from that port. And I want you to understand, and St. Lucians to appreciate what I'm saying here, because this is very important. Here we have a previous administration that saw it fit as to a way not to bring in a private contractor in building the airport. This is a way, they figure out a way to create revenue from the very stream so that it can pay for itself. But we had an other administration that came about and just crushed all of that, and they will bring another PPP arrangement. I'm saying all of that, Andre, to say, you see the level of wastage we have in the country, and not just our country alone, in the Caribbean. We have the tendency to keep messing up our countries, and then we come back during election to say, but I build this there, I do this there, I do that there. But what are those things you're doing? There is no sustainability in nothing that you're doing, Andre. You only doing whatever you're doing when it's close to election because you want to be re-elected. There is no emphasis in driving this economy so that the people can become successful in the long term. Your country can thrive in the long term. We just keep spinning top in mud, my friend. And those people that keep calling and do not understand the fundamentals of what business is, they need to be quiet. Because you cannot tell me handing over something that is already a revenue stream to your country to someone that brings nothing in, you call that business? Which private entity will do such nonsense like that? You know, my brother, if you want to invest, you have to bring your own money in the country. I cannot give you something that is already bringing revenue to me, to my people, just because I want my pot to be refurbished. I should refurbish it with the money I'm already getting, reinvesting the money to bring more people in the country. You see, Andre, we need to be very careful how we analyze these things. Sometimes we go in, and I know you said that these things can be very difficult for people to understand. Maybe we need to take it down a notch, the level of understanding of the people. Those people that voted for Trump, you know how many of those farmers that voted against themselves today that are now taking social media and how they are so disgruntled because of their own stupidity? This is what we are doing to our own selves, my friend. We need to understand what we're doing before we actually take action. And I hope people are listening. We need to be careful attention as to who we vote in the next election, because it's very important as to how we choose to use that right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller.
You know, and
we have another call.
The dishonesty of the government is what bothers me. You know, on the issue of security, I talked about how they make us pay more for worse security. And then, you know, I listened to the debate on the estimates, and I heard the representative for Grossily, Kazimi, making the statement that he came in and found 2 vehicles there, and now there are 11 vehicles. And, you know, that's an absolute lie. How could you? I mean, things that can be verified, you know what I'm saying? And you just come out and tell a lie like this, you know. Anyway, they have to expose on every account, on every count, and on every occasion. Caller, good morning. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Go ahead and make a contribution, please.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Andre.
Good morning.
I'm saying I've been listening to Mr. Montoute, and I heard a lot of things that were said and that has been said. Like it is 2 parties. One will say what the other one did, and the other one come in power, saying what, you know, the same thing that the other one did, that's what that one is doing, right? I heard him talk about taking the country's money and the different things he spoke about. But did you remember Cabot? Which money? Why didn't they?
Yes, I remember Cabot.
Why didn't they allow the NIC to buy the land at Cabot and use it for the country?
Okay.
All right, it was not done.
Okay, first of all, you're not going to let me answer?
No, I'm just telling you different things.
No, you're asking me questions, but you're not letting me answer.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. First of all, I do remember Cabot, and I remember the attitude and the behavior of the St Lucia Labour Party about Cabot, how they protested and they demonstrated, and as soon as they won the election, they were drinking wine and eating caviar at the opening. I remember that, yes. The next thing I remember is that the NIC provided a loan to Cabot, because the NIC is in the business of investing our money that they have there for social security to make more money, to ensure that when the time comes for our benefit, that money is there. They have enough money to do so. So they invested, and it was a sound, very good investment, because the risk was minimal, given the fact that the land was used as security, and that land was far in excess of the money that they lent to Cabot.
So why did they allow NIC?
Because NIC is not in the business
that way too.
Because NIC is not in the business of land development and doing those kind of projects. That's what. So they invested the money in a portfolio that they into, and that is what. And they have been paid fully by Cabot. Of course, they got less interest than they should have gotten, because the St Lucia Labour Party, whom you seem to be believing, made such an issue, such a fuss, that it terrified Cabot to the point that they just paid off the loan prematurely, reducing the amount of interest that the NIC could have made for our benefit. So that is what you call, there's a name for that, scholar, it's called hypocrisy on the part of the St. Lucia.
Another thing is about you're talking about giving foreigners, where the budget was done by the civil servant, and who changed it? Whom did they give it to? And from the first time that the UWP came in power, what did they do? They paid somebody else to do it. It's our money too, isn't it? So I am saying there are lots of things that one is criticized, that one for doing, and the other one, they come and they do the same thing. Then, as I heard you say, let's have a coalition government, or change the whole thing, the 2 parties, and come with a new one that would understand the country.
Okay, caller.
Both of them have faults like that.
All right, caller.
Okay,
I'm hearing you saying.
Thank you very much.
Is that I said let's have a what party? You said I never
coalition.
Said coalition party. I never said anything like that. I'm not about to propose that. What the system? There's nothing wrong with the system that we have. What is wrong is how we go about assessing politicians and making our decision as to which government we elect. I'm saying to you, you say that, okay, there will always be debate as to who did what and who did what. What is important is for you to ask yourself whether I said anything that was not on point, whether you can challenge any of the things that I said, as opposed to what the government side is saying, whether to begin with, most of it is true, most of it can be substantiated, and we are happy and satisfied with what they're doing. That is what is important.
Let's take a final call.
Yeah. Caller, good morning. You're a final caller for today. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Make your contribution, please.
Good morning to Mr. Montoute. Good morning, Andrew. Good program as usual.
Morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Montoute.
By the way, caller, you have 2 minutes, okay?
Yes. Mr. Montoute and Andre, some information got to me. Breaking news. I'm of the understanding that the St. Jude Hospital, the project, has stopped because Mr. Kajada, Reno Kajada, is complaining that he's not been paid due to the fact that the Saudi government are having delays in making the funds available to the St. Lucia government. So the information that is reaching me is that the St. Jude Hospital is on a standstill for now because the government of the Labour Party do not have the funds to continue the hospital. That is sad news.
Well, caller, I'll leave that for Andre. Tomorrow he has the government in studio for Meet the Minister.
So they ask him.
And that's a question they can ask that they clarify and give us some enlightenment on. I wish Andre luck on that.
This is worrying news because we have our healthcare situation is at its worst. It's bad. It's terrible. You go to the hospitals right now, you cannot get medication. There's no beds. People are literally sent home to die. And that's the state of healthcare under St. Lucia Labour Party government. Lastly, on your last program, you gave 13 policy positions that the United Workers Party have ratified at the last convention. One of them being unemployment benefits for all, and that's a very, very good policy, because I want to say to the St. Lucian public, the United Workers Party is the party which truly cares about people and who truly puts people first. The United Workers Party, and so when the United Workers Party assumes the government, if you happen to lose your job and you're looking for some assistance, the government of the United Workers Party will assist you with unemployment benefits so that you can get some little financial help until you get another job. I want to say bravo to coming up with that idea, and it will go a long way to assisting particularly persons who may have lost their job and will need that kind of assistance. So it shows clearly that the United Workers Party is a futuristic party, and that the United Workers Party is the better choice right now to govern St. Lucia. Have a blessed weekend. Good.
Thank you, caller.
You too as well.
I think you left a question for Andre to ask tomorrow. I want to leave my question for Andre to ask tomorrow. Given what is facing us, what is the looming threat that we have with the tariffs and all of that, and there are many things that are going to be affected, but I'm particularly concerned about food, not because I'm greedy, but because I know food is necessary for our survival. I want Andre to ask how come the government is looking at a decrease in the budget for agriculture. In 2019-2020, we had $48.5 million. Now we have $42.4 million. I want that question asked. And so I want to thank all of you who tuned in today, who listened to us. And I'm sure some people are happy they were able to listen to us live on YouTube. I want to thank those in particular who called in. And I want to encourage you to continue to listen. Join us again next Thursday, when that is the place where you hear the truth, that you get the enlightenment, and here is where it happens. Meet the Opposition. And I invite you to join me on Monday with Like It Is in another place on another station.
Well, no, you can say.
On Hot 7 TV, I will be, on Like It Is, and of course on Sunday, I understand we will be in Castries North for Flambeau Live, so you can join us there as well.
I hope the host of tomorrow's program gives me an opportunity to ask those questions. I hope so.
Well, they're not the most open people,
They just have an hour.
Everything is very controlled. Everything is, regimented. That's the way of the Labour Party. This is, this is dictatorship in its true form.
We shall see. See.
Andre,
thank you very much,
Mr. And good day to all our listeners.
Lenard Spider-Montoute, the host of Meet the Opposition. By the way, how is Nancy? How's Nancy doing?
Well, she's doing fine. And, Nancy is in another place very much immersed in politics still. But she's doing fine.
Okay, thank you very much. So have yourself a nice day and a safe weekend. All right?
Thank you, Andrew.